Welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Today, I'm speaking with Director of Strength and Conditioning at Eastern Michigan University, Ron McKeefery. Hi guys, thanks for tuning in to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Today I have Ron McKeefery on the line. The reason I wanted to get Ron on was to discuss working in a Division 1 university in the US. So we discuss his role at East Michigan University and the process that he goes through with his athletes and the kind of journey that they go on throughout their 3 or 4 years with him. We also look at the initial assessment that he goes through when students first arrive as a freshman. We also talk about an article that Ron was involved with the NSCA Coaches Corner when he offers 3 pieces of advice for aspiring strength coaches. We also finish off with a chat about Iron Game Chalk Talk, which is Ron's podcast. He's on episode 80-something or 90-something at the minute, so he's very experienced when it comes to the pod. If you haven't checked it out, you need to check it out, and he's over at ronmckeefery.com. But just before we get into the chat with Ron, I'd just like to say a massive thank you for the feedback I've been getting over the last couple of episodes. Keep that coming. If there's anything that needs to be changed, I'm doing well. I'd like to know. As always, you can keep up to date with everything that's going on the podcast if you subscribe on iTunes. You could also download the Podomatic app, and you can listen on the go if you haven't got iTunes, and you can also listen on YouTube now. So if you go over to the Pacey Performance YouTube channel, all the episodes are on there. The 2 best places to keep up to date with everything that's going on the podcast is if you follow me on Twitter at Pacey Perform, or keep checking back to the Pacey Performance website, which is paceyperformance.co.uk, and you'll get to know when all the podcasts go live. But here is the chat with Ron McKeefery. Hi guys, welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. If I'm being totally honest, I'm a little bit nervous because it's kind of the master and the student today. I've got Ron McKeefery on the line. So I'd just like to welcome Ron to the podcast.
Rob, I appreciate you having me, man. Fan of your show, and I think you're doing a great job and excited to be here.
Thanks, mate. It's great to have you. Would I be able to ask you to do a little bit of a bio on yourself, education, background, and what you're currently doing?
Yeah, sure. It's a long one. I'll try to be short-winded with it. You know, I played football, American football, and then threw javelin in college at the Ottawa University. And in that process, you know, through high school and college, I was kind of a self-made athlete. Worked extremely hard in the weight room, fell in love with the weight room and what it did for me. And I went to school originally to go into medicine and be a doctor, and learned pretty quickly that I didn't like cutting on live people. Cadavers was okay, but live people I had a problem with, and so I started kind of researching, and this is before strength and conditioning was really a widespread profession, and so. I heard about strength and conditioning and it made complete sense to me. And so, I started reaching out to a bunch of different coaches and long story short, I did an internship with the Kansas City Royals, which is professional baseball. And then I went and did another internship and worked its way into a part-time assistant position with the Tampa Bay Bucks, which is a professional football team. And, from there, I became a head strength coach over in Europe, in NFL Europe. With the Berlin Thunder in Germany. And when I came back to the States, there was a startup school called the University of South Florida that was just starting a football program. And so I got in kind of on the ground floor of that, and we were able to develop that program and have a tremendous amount of success, going to several bowl games and, putting out a lot of good football players, and was there for 10 years. Left there to go work with Army Special Operations, so in the military, and then quickly left and found a job with the University of Tennessee as the head strength coach, which is a major college football program. And wins and losses kind of determine your fate as a coach, and so we didn't have as many wins as we would have liked, and led to us being let go as a staff. Found a home with the Cincinnati Bengals, which is another professional football team, and then I was able to, went to college, like I said, for medicine, and I got my degree in biology and exercise science, and I've along the way picked up about every certification kind of known to man. But in that process, I met, at the university, my senior year, I met a first-time head football coach, 26 years old, came in my senior year, 21 years old. We went from 1-9 my junior year to 9-1 when he came in, and he just got a job here at Eastern Michigan University as the head football coach, which is a Division I program. And I told myself if I ever had an opportunity to work for him at Division I level, I was going to take it and do it. And so that's where I'm at now at Eastern Michigan, and we're trying to rebuild a program that hasn't had a lot of success, but lots of really positive things going on behind the scenes right now.
That sounds great. So something that resonated with me a little bit, the kind of transition from player to coach, was that seamless? Was that a struggle?
It was. I'm going through with our players right now, because a lot of our players are just finishing up, and the hardest thing for an athlete to do is to be done with the competitive part of their career, and so I don't think it's ever easy as an athlete. I mean, you're kind of built that way to go out and compete every day and work towards a goal and all those things, but at the same time, I was able to kind of see my career through and realize that, I needed the game still in my life. I needed, college football or football in my life. And so it motivated me to go and put that same type of intensity and focus and passion towards a coaching career. And so, I'm lucky I get to wear, gym shorts and a t-shirt to work every day, and continue to be around the sport that I love.
Totally agree. Apart from the gym shorts, because it's about -5 in Huddersfield at the minute, so maybe some tracksuit bottoms and a coat. But yeah, with the American collegiate system being so different to what we see over here in the UK, would you give us a bit of a feel for what it's like day to day working at East Michigan?
Yeah, this is a question that I kind of always ask on our podcast, because I went to the NFL Europe, which kind of opened my eyes to global strength and conditioning early in my career. And then, I've since spoken around the world at different conferences, and we adopted our kids from Ukraine and Honduras. And so I really have a passion for that global approach to strength and conditioning. And what I found is, and I was really blown away by the UKSCA conference. I mean, I thought the science that was being put out and the delivery was spot on and phenomenal. And I ended up kind of changing my presentation to be more about the coaching aspect and kind of the outside of the X's and O's of strength and conditioning. And what I found is in a lot of countries, it's more of a clinical type of approach. It's more of kind of a medical type of approach, where it's you come in and you train and you do what's on the card and you leave. And I think in the American collegiate system, the role of a strength coach is much more than just the X's and O's of strength and conditioning. It really is more of a mentor type of role, a kind of a development, mind, body, and spirit type of role. And so you're constantly involved in things that wouldn't traditionally be considered part of your job, making sure they go to class and making sure they do any kind of accountability and make sure they're active in the community and and they're going to treatment and, all those types of things. It ultimately kind of falls to the strength coach a lot of times, but some strength coaches look at that and say, well, I'm not a babysitter and I'm not this and I'm not that. And what it is it's kind of it's being a part of those other 22 hours, because if you don't, you got them for 2 hours, but those other 22 hours, if they don't do the right things, then you're fighting a losing battle as a strength coach. And so we constantly try to find ways to be involved with their life. And by doing so, I've said all the time on my podcast is that you spell love, Time. What you love, you'll spend time with, by showing that we invest time in them, that when we ask them to do things that are extremely uncomfortable in the weight room, we're able to do that without the carrots that some of the other coaches. I mean, we don't have the carrot of playing time or the carrot of, getting the ball or whatever. We have you're going to get destroyed in this weight room, but I'm not going to really give you anything other than the pitch that you're going to be better on at the sport you chose to do. So it's you have to have a great relationship with the athletes, and you do that by being a part of their life.
So how do you go about educating these? Well, I say educating these guys to look after themselves for the 22 hours that you're not kind of by the side.
Well, like I said, it starts with the education in the weight room and what they're trying to do and how hard they're working to accomplish their goals, and that small decisions throughout their day will negate what they just worked so extremely hard to do, and so we're constantly, we're constantly setting up, cooking demos and grocery store tours and laying out meal planning and to little things like, you're driving down the street and you see a McDonald's and you text one of your players and you say, hey, I better not have seen you in McDonald's, so, you just have to, we just try to find ways to provide the content, but then reinforce the content outside in little ways. And so social media has been a big tool for us. The athletes are constantly on it, so we try to meet them where they're at with that. We try to provide them with life experiences, so climbing mountains and going whitewater rafting and doing different things like that, where it's an experience, things that they would not have done on their own. And in those moments, trying to find things that you can relate to. So when you just got done climbing a 14,000 foot mountain and you're talking about setting goals and working to achieve them and dealing with adversity, and you can always kind of point back to those things. And it's something that will resonate with them for the rest of their life.
So did you say it's quite a new program at East Michigan, or has it been going for quite a number of years now?
It's got a great tradition, or a long history.
Forgive my ignorance when it comes to that.
No, but it's a program that has not had a winning program for 20 plus years. So, we came in and honestly, we just got done finishing the season, and we had a very similar season to the year they had before. But I think, anytime you take over a program, you have to put your stamp on things. You have to create your culture. You have to, to provide a solid base to recruit your type of player to and get talent and those types of things. And so that's what this last year has been, is really just saying, okay, here's a standard, here's an expectation. This is what we are demanding that you meet, and finding out who's willing to take that journey with us.
Yeah, I mean, I spoke to Jay DeMayo a couple of weeks ago with regards to his basketball guys and girls. So about the kind of journey that they go through in their 3 or 4 year degree, or 5 year with a master's or whatever. But what's the journey look like for your guys that go through your 3, 4, 5 year program?
It's a little bit different for everybody. that you would like the journey to be that they go through kind of a year of development, that they redshirt and that they're not competitive for a year, and you have a whole year to just kind of to provide a solid foundation for what you're trying to accomplish. And then it's it kind of follows your typical periodization model where you're building strength for a couple of years and then you're hoping to realize power out of that, in your last couple, and it progresses from basic exercises and basic progressions to more advanced exercises and progressions. But the reality is that that freshman that walks in may end up starting for you right away, and so you're balancing trying to develop them while they're still competing and things along those lines. So what we do is we try to provide a solid base of principle-based strength and conditioning where we're constantly overloading, we're constantly progressing, we're adding variety, we're training the entire body. We train every 48 to 72 hours, and we do that. And we hold them extremely accountable, and by having this principle-based strength and conditioning, we're able to develop the athletes throughout their entire career, and do so in both a sport and position and athlete specific way, and I think the biggest challenge then is the skill acquisition part, where you got several different positions and you're trying to, when you get to the conditioning pieces where you're working on skill acquisition, it's trying to provide coverage and accountability for those athletes, and that's always a challenge.
So from entering the program on when they're 18, how long do you get with these guys before, like you said, that freshman might go into being starting on game day? How long do you get with them guys?
Yeah, it depends on when they come in. Most of the time, you have about a month before the season starts, and you're in an in-season program with a true freshman, somebody just coming into university. And so, in that time, you might have, last year out of the 25 guys that we brought in, we played 3 of them, so 22 of them, had a whole year worth of development, which was great, or whole, 4 or 5 months worth of development. But, but you get transfers all the time. You get, you get different people in different walks and different parts of their journey in the college setting. So, really, like I said, I mean, it for us, and you would like to, it's a little bit different than like a quadrennial type of Olympic type of plan, they're coming in and you're having you kind of have you've developed a program that to play this game, you have to kind of meet these standards, and this is the type of program that you need to kind of to prepare your body for the rigors of competition. So we're going to do this, and the development and the progression becomes where they're at in their strength and power and levels, and so, basically it's just the specificity part of it becomes, them doing a certain, whatever their percentage is of their 1RMs,
Mm-hmm. So upon entry into the program, what's the first thing you do? Do you get any kind of inkling what these guys are like prior? Or they come in and it's like, hi, I'm Ron, let's get going?
Yeah, you're getting a melting pot, because especially coming out of high school where, like I always talk to our young coaches, telling them that, high school is kind of an untapped market. Mm. Most high schools here don't have strength coaches. So, some guys have had really good coaches that have taken, lots of, time to invest in themselves as strength coaches and learn And then you got some guys that it's an afterthought, they're a football coach and they just happen to, they work out on the side. So they're in charge of the strength program. And so, what I do honestly, and this doesn't, sometimes the pure strength coach will probably disagree with me, but that first week I beat the crap out of them. That first week, I make it be one of the hardest things they've ever done. And the reason I do that is because, these guys, they've all just spent a whole, 2 years, 3 years in some cases, getting told how great they were in the recruiting process, And so they have this confidence, it's human nature. It's just natural. But they have this confidence about them, and that they're invincible, and that that they're gonna come in and it's not gonna be any different than what they've had, and this, that, and the other. And so that first week, we try to break them off just so that they understand that it's different, And when somebody understands that, this is a different level, then they start to open their mind to learning new things and doing it the right way, And so we do that. In that same week, we'll do testing. We'll test them, and what we use for football is all the same tests that the NFL Combine uses. So height and weight, body fat, vertical, broad jump, 225 for reps, 40-yard dash, 5-10-5 pro agility, lateral speed and agility drill, 3-cone wheel drill, and then we do a conditioning test, a 300-yard shuttle, and we add 1 RM bench and 1 RM squat to that. And we do that so that we can get programming numbers, so that we have an understanding of where they're at and how to program their exercises. And so we'll do all that in the first week. And then from there, it's basically they're integrated fully into the program.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that some may come out of high school with no strength and conditioning coach. Are you jumping them guys straight into to do that kind of maximal testing, or do they have some sort of prep beforehand?
Yeah, we'll go through and provided they have not shown any kind of technique flaw, and so in their warm-up sets, if they're having a technique flaw, and we'll educate them on technique, we'll coach them up on it prior to, but we'll go ahead and go, and if they're, as long as they're in the warm-up sets, they're not showing any technique flaws, we'll progress them to what is a true 1 RM for them at that point with good technique. Now the minute that technique breaks down, that's what their true 1 RM is with good technique, And we have the coaches, the number of coaches, and the eyes and the accountability to be able to do that.
Cool. So do you put them through any sort of movement screen prior to them coming?
No, we don't. It's something that I've used in other places with different programs, but the reality is it's here at Eastern, we didn't have the equipment to do so initially, and then we'll use the movement prep as kind of a screen in that throughout, and what we do. And what I found kind of going through the years and talking with Gray quite a bit, Gray Cook, developed, FMS, and is, those corrections kind of are universal, and so what we do is we build our corrections into our workouts, because I don't like guys standing around. And so that active recovery becomes corrective exercise, between their multiple joint movements.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Just jumping away from train talk a little bit, I mentioned I saw an article that you'd done recently. Well, I don't know how recent it was, for the NSCA Coaches Corner, and asking you 3 pieces of advice for aspiring coaches. You said, quote, network like crazy. Can you give us a little bit of a reason why you said that, and Just a bit of an insight how you've gone about things you mentioned right at the start and why it's so important to network.
Well, the field is still very much a kind of an apprenticeship type of field. It's still being defined by the practical application as opposed to the scientific knowledge. And so, by getting out and talking to as many coaches as possible, you can learn how they've taken and applied practically the knowledge that we've all gained through exercise science, exercise phys, and kines, and on and on and on. And that's really where it comes down to. And that plus the fact that, there's such a limited number of jobs for the number of coaches that want those jobs, that, the way that, the way you have a leg up is by people knowing who you are, and so, as a young coach, the first part becomes just getting out and seeing different ways, because you're kind of a product of the environment that you've been in. So you've learned a certain way and you think that that's the one and only way, until all of a sudden you see somebody else having similar or more success with a different system. And so it's important to kind of challenge your ideals of what you think strength and conditioning is as a young coach. It's also important, for you to get out and meet coaches, because when I hire coaches, because there's so many other aspects of this job outside of just the X and O's and the knowledge of strength and conditioning, that I need to have ultimate trust in that you're going to have the ability to perform that task. Because unfortunately, especially in the United States and major programs across the world, you get with some premier programs and you make a mistake as a strength coach, it's front page news, or it's on Sports Center, or it's, it's on the local news channel or whatever, and you can't have that, and maintain your credibility as a coach in the profession. And so you have to have a very solid trust in the people that you hire, So those two things, and I talk to our coaches, and I've mentioned this quite a few times on my podcast, is that to be a great strength coach, you have to be three things, in my opinion. One is, and this is where I think most strength coaches spend all their time, is you have to be a great technician. Okay, we like to lift weights, and so because we like to lift weights, we start teaching people how to lift weights.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a plumber, right? If you're a plumber, well, you become a great technician. You go out and you're working plumbing jobs, and you kind of see every different way of fixing a sink or fixing a tub or whatever, and you know how to do it. But the second piece, and how you grow as a strength and conditioning professional, is that you have to be a great manager. Okay, so what happens to the plumber? The plumber goes and he starts his own business. Well, he fails because he doesn't know how to manage money, his taxes. He doesn't know how to market and get clients. He doesn't know how to make his customers happy with customer satisfaction. And so he fails in business. Well, it's the same with strength and conditioning. If you don't know how to manage time, money, and resources, you're going to fail as a professional. And then the last part is you got to be a great entrepreneur. You have to kind of always be forward thinking. So again, using the plumber, if that guy is not learning the latest techniques of how to fix sinks and tubs and whatnot, then he's not going to stay in business very long. So it's the same with strength and conditioning. If you're not learning the latest techniques and constantly sharpening the sword and finding different ways to reach your athletes in unique different ways, you're going to fail. So you can't be any one of those things. You can't just have your head in the clouds and always be thinking about the next thing and trying out all these different deals and not be a great technician and get results, Or you can't just be a manager where you're sitting in the office all day and not ever out on the floor and be a great strength coach. So you have to be all three of those things all the time.
Mm. And when it comes to networking, and kind of a little bit of a dirty word, because I think people get kind of caught up in it's it's quite a bit cringy, going up to someone and kind of using the kind of networking to kind of get where you want to be, or help someone out, or they help you out. But I think I don't know if you agree, but it's just kind of putting yourself in the best situation, whether it be at a seminar or going to see someone. It's not actually networking. It's just getting to know people and being a decent human being.
That's right.
Yeah. Is that something you kind of hammer home with your interns and your young coaches?
Yeah, I think, one of the things I always tell them is that, you got to try helping them get what they want so you get what you want.
For sure.
So, the great thing about being a young strength and conditioning coach is that you have kind of this unbridled energy to go out and constantly research and read and come out with different exercises and different ideas, and you just come out of university and you're up to date on current research and all that. So like myself, who's been in the field for 18 plus years and has a family of 4 kids and a wife and all these responsibilities, when I go home, I don't get to go on the internet and look up exercises. I got to go to my son's wrestling practice and my daughter's swim practice and all that. And so if you're a young coach and you're bringing something to the table, like here's an article, or here's a cool video, or here's a book that I just read, or summary of a book I just read, or something like that, and you're kind of giving information to these coaches at the same time that you're networking with them, well, then you're bringing something to the table, and so yeah, you don't want to just go and walk in and say, hey, can you get me a job? That's not going to work. But if you develop a pure relationship with them and you're helping them as much as they're helping, as they may have not have helped you. Then there's a good chance that they're gonna when opportunities come about that they hear about, they're gonna say, hey, this is a good young coach that I know. He might be a good one for you to talk to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just going on to the article that you were involved with, you mentioned another 2, as well as networking, obtain all minimum qualifications and be humble. Do you want to just give us a little, I know I'm taking a bit of your time, but just give us a little bit of an overview of them 2 things and anything else you'd kind of recommend?
Yeah, I think what I mean by that is minimum qualifications, So right now there's, and I'm hiring coaches all the time, and so I see this more and more with each year that goes by. I don't want to sound like an old fogey, but the reality is that a lot of coaches, they come out of the university, they got their degree, they get their certification, and they're like, because I have the education, the book knowledge, now I'm qualified to do the job, and in a high demand job. I mean, it's not like a lawyer where there's millions of lawyers out there, or hundreds of thousands of lawyers, strength and conditioning, to be at the top of professional strength and conditioning in the United States, there's 500 jobs. To be at the top in college in the United States, there's 1,000 jobs. So there's 1,500 jobs to be at the top. Worldwide, that's probably, maybe 5,000 jobs total. And so, every year there's people coming out and they think just because they have this degree and this certification that they're qualified to be the head strength coach for Manchester United or the Cleveland Browns or whatever. Yeah. And so you got to understand that the practical part of that is huge as well. And so you have to kind of get the minimum qualifications. So, getting your degree, getting your certification, going on getting an advanced degree, getting practical experience, that just keeps you in the pile, So when I get 500 plus resumes for jobs, I'm looking for a reason to get people out of the pile, not put people in.
Yeah.
The second part is you got to be humble. If you got all the answers as a 22-year-old, 25-year-old strength coach, then I'm going to be like, I'm as a 40-year-old strength coach, I'm just now learning how to ask the right questions, and And so, I'm not interested in somebody that has all the answers. I'm interested in people that are helping me explore what the right questions are to ask so we can get the correct information. And, so again, there's this confidence and this air about strength coaches, and a lot of times it's like, I have all the answers and you got to hire me because of the way I look and yada, yada, yada. Well, there's that humility is a missing piece. And the reality is that because of that lack of professionalism of this Neanderthal type of approach, it gives our profession a bad name, And so we need to be constant, the consummate professional. When we go and we present, we need to look sharp. We need to have great information. We need to do it in a very professional way. When we interact with media and different opportunities along those lines, we need to put forward our best foot instead of just kind of being like this guy that screams and yells at athletes.
Yeah, and that's cool. I mean, I spoke to earlier on in the podcasting episode 10 or 11. I spoke to Jason Weber from Fremantle Dockers in the AFL, and he spoke about a physical assessment that he puts his potential new coaches through. Do you do anything like that?
Well,
make sure they can sufficiently squat, clean, sprint drills, things like that.
Yeah, we have a program here that I've had through the years, and we've had several hundreds of interns kind of come through our program. And I had a lecture series that I would give our interns. It's an 8-lecture series, and we've had them go through it for the last 15, 16 years, and really it's just kind of educating them on the field, and then during that process, if they're here live, then we go through, like we take them through our program for that semester. They have to actually, we call it University McKeefery, where they go through all the exercises. We take them through the program. I want them to feel how the athletes are going to feel. So, I mean, they're puking left and right, and then we talk about the teaching progressions, and then, then we have them test out as part of their practicum. We make sure that they come in and they test out on all the major exercises, and they have to present a annual program on a sport of their choice, and we pick that apart. But we've had a lot of coaches that have in the years that haven't been able to come down. So I ended up putting it online as a product. It's called Strength Coach Basic Training.
Yeah.
If you go to strengthcoachbasictraining.com, you can sign up. But it's all the lectures are on there, all the assignments and the projects are on there. But it's become this community now of coaches that have interacted with each other, and people have gotten jobs out of there, hired people out of there, all that kind of stuff. So it's been pretty neat. So if there's young coaches out there, check that out. It's a pretty neat little deal.
No, it sounds really good. Okay, just to finish off and get you back into your day, do you want to just tell us a bit about Iron Game Chalk Talk and your website and everything else that you've got going on?
Yeah, sure. It's I appreciate that. Iron Game Chalk Talk is a podcast that I started it's going on its third year now, 2015, and I started it because when I was in between jobs, driving around and meeting with coaches got to be really expensive, and so I started Skyping people. And I'm a visual person. Most athletes are visual people, and so I wanted to do both an audio and visual podcast. So what I really wanted to do, and what I found, talking to my assistants and things, and I've been able to create a pretty good network through the years of different coaches, and so I wanted to create this chalk talk type of session where it's me and another coach in the room talking about training, and you as a young strength coach or just another strength coach in general are there kind of sharing in that process, and maybe it's with somebody that you wouldn't normally talk to. Maybe it's with somebody that you maybe couldn't get an audience with, but all of a sudden now, for your drive to work or whatever, you're able to sit there and listen to some of the best in the world talk shop. And so it's been a pretty neat, fun project for me. You can get to it on my website at ronmckeefery.com, or you can go to iTunes and search for Iron Game Chalk Talk, or YouTube, search for it on there as well. Because like I said, it's a video as well as audio. And like I said, I think we're over 80 plus episodes now, and talked to some phenomenal coaches from around the world. So it's really been a neat deal. And other than that, we have the Strength Coach Basic Training I mentioned, and anything that I've created, I've always created for the coach and on a platform of education. And so it's not so much for me to make money or this, that, or the other. I mean, Strength Coach Basic Training, basically, I think it pays for like my cable bill,
Right.
And then Strength On Demand, strength-ondemand.com is a online archive. A buddy of mine, we're talking, and there's all these different great clinics from around the world that put on these fantastic clinics, but not everybody can go to them. And so, those clinics, they may sell a DVD and they may make a couple bucks off that, but then, that content just goes and dies. And I thought that was a travesty. I wanted to make sure that, good clinic presentations, even that maybe have been put on 10 years ago, people are still having an opportunity to find those and listen to them. And so we created strength-ondemand.com, and that's what it is. It's an online archive of different clinic presentations, again, from some of the best in the world. And basically we put up a new one each month, and we're constantly adding to it. And it's I think I'm not even sure what it costs. I think $97 or something. But you're able to get to all these different clinic presentations on your smartphone or, anywhere you got an internet connection and watch on your own time. So it's a pretty neat little deal.
No, that's a great idea. It's really good. And just to vouch for the Iron Game Chalk Talk, really good. And you got some really good guests on. And I kind of mark myself on this podcast on the guys I'm getting on and think, yeah, Ron's had him on. Yeah, we're good to go. It'll be decent. It'll be decent. So yeah, and I've used it as a bit of an education for myself. Not that you're aware of that, but
wow, that's awesome.
So hopefully I'm keeping the little train going with the podcast. So
that's fantastic.
But I'll let you go, and I just want to say again, big thank you for your time that you've given to us. I know you've got a busy day ahead, so I'll let you go. But thanks very much, Ron.
No, man, Rob, it's been a pleasure and it's been a lot of fun. And I know, as you mentioned, how much work goes into producing these types of things and doing them. And so I truly appreciate anybody, yourself included, that is willing to take the time to put out a resource for other strength coaches to continue to learn and find a platform for people or provide a platform for people to learn it the way that they may consume it. Information. And so
yeah, for sure,
appreciate what you're doing and the time it takes to do it, buddy.
No problem at all, Ron. And I'll speak to you shortly, and thanks again for your time.
Absolutely, bud. Take care. Have
Cheers,
a good day.
Ron. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning into the Pacey Performance podcast. I hope you enjoyed the chat with Ron. Certainly some great take-home messages there, especially at the end, not only for aspiring strength coaches, but for guys currently working in the field. Obtain no minimum qualifications, being humble and networking, certainly something that should be carried out throughout your career. If you do want to keep in touch with everything that's going on in the podcast, as I said before, you can subscribe on iTunes, you can download the Podomatic app, or you can listen on YouTube, via YouTube or via paceyperformance.co.uk. So check all them out, and I will